I'm Sam Evans-Brown. If my name is familiar, it might be because you are a New Hampshire Public Radio listener.
I'm a supporter, Sam.
Good.
All these years.
I am as well. I spent 10 years at NHPR, and I launched the station's first podcast back in 2015, and then very embarrassingly there was a morning edition segment called Ask Sam, in which I was asked mostly like animal questions, which I was entirely unequipped to answer, but I was good at finding people who could answer those questions, and I think I made people chuckle, so they kept me on the radio. And I left NHPR in the spring of 2021 and have taken over as the Executive Director of Clean Energy New Hampshire. The reason that I did that is because that as a journalist who was interested in climate change and solutions to climate change, I became increasingly convinced that local action is where we have the most leverage. And in fact, like the more local, the more that's true. And when I looked at the landscape of effective organizations in New Hampshire, Clean Energy New Hampshire was always the one that I really respected and relied on also as a journalist. One of my jokes was that whenever I wanted to call someone who actually knew what they were talking about and would tell me what was happening and would not lie to me, I called the previous executive directors of Clean Energy New Hampshire. And so we have mostly through their leadership have carved out a space for ourselves of expertise and knowledge in what is objectively very arcane stuff. Electricity regulation is, I would argue, intentionally obscure. I think it's in the interests of the incumbents for it to be confusing, and so they use as much jargon as they can as a gatekeeping method to keep people from paying too close attention to what they're doing. And so that's where we work. In fact, so many of the organizations that are more well known than Clean Energy New Hampshire, when they want to understand local energy policy questions, they often come to us, and we feed them answers that they can craft to whatever their audiences are. We're hiring a Monadnock circuit rider next. With, again, actually USDA funding. There's a lot of funding for rural communities. It's actually much more difficult for urban communities to find funding for this type of work. And then we're also hiring a Seacoast circuit rider with the support of the Lewis Foundation. And my goal is to have 9 circuit riders statewide. That will be with each of the regional planning commissions has a territory. There'll be some like squish there because they don't quite line up with the counties, which we'll have to figure out. But on the order of 9 folks statewide who each have a geographic territory to work with local communities. So that's what Clean Energy New Hampshire does.